Hello students, welcome back. In today's video, we shall be studying about the different methods of training. So in methods of training, there are basically two types of training which can be administered. One of them is something known as on-the-job training, whereas the other one is something known as off-the-job training. So what we understand by on-the-job training here is the candidate or the employee learns as they are performing the job. So they're performing the job and at the same time they are also in the learning process. So normally on the job training is something which is seen through all cadres and positions in the company. So right from a clerical staff to a president, all these people would have definitely gone through the process of on the job training. And there are many organizations which offer only on the job training techniques. They don't have the concept of off the job. So they believe in the fact that the new employees, once they come into the organization, or already existing employees who require improvement, can learn better only by performing the task under the supervision of someone else. In fact, if you see the positions of the upper level management, see, take an example of positions of those who want to fill in positions of CEO or president. Normally, there will be another position created for them under the name of assistant to president or assistant to CEO. So something like this, a particular position will be created. So the purpose of this position is that assistant to president or the assistant to CEO, this person works along with the CEO or works along with the president, takes part with him while decision making, observes him or her while they are in the decision making process of important issues, and accordingly, once the president or the CEO steps down, once they retire or leave the company, this assistant to president or the assistant to the CEO is now occupying the position of a CEO or takes the position of a president and performs his or her job according to whatever the previous CEO or the previous president had taught this person. So this kind of technique is even now followed in many organizations. So this is basically the on-the-job training technique. On-the-job training technique has four types of training techniques, four major types of training techniques. See, the first one, there is something called as coaching. So what we understand by coaching is, in the company, an experienced employee or the person who's in the supervisory position, they demonstrate how to do the job to the new employee or to his juniors. As they are demonstrating, they keep giving instructions like this is how it has to be done, this is how you should not do, these are the safety measures that you have to take, all these things are seen. And many times when you are taking an example of the employees or the workers, they learn a lot by observing what the supervisor is doing. So this is the way in which coaching is done. And normally we see that coaching is also done in, you will notice that this technique is there in other kinds of fields as well. Like as I had already told you, the case of potential or a future CEO gets coached by the CEO of that company. So they have recognized a person, that person they are training them so that in the event of the CEO stepping down or leaving the company, that particular person can occupy the position of the CEO. Moving on to the next technique under methods of training, there is something called as job rotation. So what we understand by job rotation is it involves moving an employee from one kind of job to another kind of job within the organization itself at regular intervals. Now, obviously, what is the purpose why we will keep moving an employee from one job to another job? The obvious reason is to ensure that the employee gets more experience in doing a variety of jobs. And you can also ensure a flexible workforce and interchangeable workforce. So I'll give you one example over here. Okay, take the case of General Motors. So in General Motors, there is a policy where the employees who are working in that production line, who are working in the factory, for a certain duration of time, they will be involved in the painting, they will be involved in the painting job. After serving under the painting job for a week or a little more than that, they will be shifted to another job, let's say welding. After serving in the welding position for some time, after 1 week or after a few weeks, they will be shifted to operating in the assembly line. So these are the different jobs that can be given to the workers in the production line. So now obviously, so what advantage can we see out of this? Now have a look at this flexible workforce point, what I have given here. In the event of a few employees not reporting to work on a particular day, we always have extra hands to take care of a particular job. See, for example, painting. Under the job of the painting of the body parts of the car or whatever it might be, supposing a few workers have not come to work on that particular day. With the existing, and it's very important to finish painting for that day, because you need to take the production process to the next stage. So it's very important to finish the painting process on that particular day. So obviously, a person who's there in the welding department, or a person who was there in the who's operating the assembly line department, you can always assign one person or a few persons from the welding department or the assembly line department. You can always assign those people and put them in the painting department for that particular day, because it's a very important task that has to be finished for that particular day. Otherwise, production is going to get obstructed. So this is the way in which flexibility can be promoted if the employees are aware of most of the jobs which are relating to their department. So you can easily interchange people from one place to another. And it obviously relieves boredom also. A person put in the welding department is doing nothing but welding the entire life. Obviously, they will get irritated. And the environment in which they are working, that light which they have to see, and then that heavy protective shield what they have to wear, it is all going to be annoying after some time. So obviously, to give a kind of relaxation for this person, they can definitely put them to another department which may be slightly less stressful, and the working conditions may be slightly better, something like the painting or the purchase department or anything like that, what the supervisor decides. So here are a couple of real life examples which I would like to share. Now take an example of General Electric. Now General Electric has its training policy in such a way where it requires all managerial trainees to participate in extensive job rotation. That is, they expect their management trainees to literally do all those jobs which they are going to supervise. So for example, they are taking up management trainees, people who are just fresh graduates, they are just fresh out of college. So they are taking them in the role of a supervisor. Now, supposing they have to supervise in the shop floor where the production is actually happening. So they have to supervise the assembly line. They will have to supervise the painting. They will have to supervise the welding. They will have to supervise the inventories. They will have to supervise the purchase. All these things, the role of the supervisor entails. Now, how will you supervise something when you do not have knowledge about it? So obviously, keeping this basic reason in mind, GE makes it mandatory for all its management trainees to actually perform all those jobs which they are likely to supervise in the coming weeks. So this is one of the training principles what is adopted by General Electric. And I have one more example over here. You have the case of Lockheed Martin. So Lockheed Martin also a company which is basically into manufacturing aircraft parts and other related things. So this company also follows a similar program. Now, in their leadership development program, they have organized it in such a way that those people whom it is taking in its HR department, although they are taking somebody, let's say, for the role of recruitment, this person, this management trainee, should also study or should also perform and learn how to do selection and other interview procedures. Should also learn how to train others in case they get placed in the training and development department in the future. They should also learn how to administer compensation, how to give the wages and the salaries. So although they are people who are taken under recruitment, they should also learn the other domains in the HR department, which can include selection, which can include training, which can include compensation, which can include public relations, which can include industrial relations, which can also include, let us say, training. Okay, so all these dimensions in the HR, they need to learn, although they are taken under the recruitment department. So have a look at the other methods of training here. There is something known as apprenticeship training. So the concept of apprenticeship training is something where it is a structured process where people learn both by the lecture method and they also learn by way of receiving actual training on the job. So it's actually a mixture of both on the job training as well as off the job training. But since there are lots of elements related to on the job training, apprenticeship training can also be categorized as on the job training. So they literally learn by observing what their seniors are doing. They literally learn by actually helping out and doing some of the work as such. And apart from all this, they are also sent to coaching classes, lecturing classes, which is held away from that location of work. I'll give you one example here. See, take an example of McDonald's. So McDonald's trains its interns on the job, on all aspects related to restaurant management, on how exactly to make those burgers, how to make those burger patties, how to fill those burgers, how quickly can you move from one process to another process, how to operate the various machinery related to the fast food. So all these things they are learning on the job. Apart from this, they are also sent to one training institute, which is run by McDonald's. It is known as Hamburger University. So this Hamburger University also trains these new recruits on all aspects of restaurant management. So this is a classic example of apprenticeship training. And what are the job profiles for which apprenticeship training can be done? Now, normally apprenticeship training, it can be done for, okay, a little higher level job profiles, if I have to say. Let's take an example of medical practitioners. Whenever you go to a hospital, you will notice some senior doctors and you will also notice some junior doctors along with them. You notice those junior doctors continuously taking notes as the senior doctors are diagnosing problems and giving explanations. So here we see a case of on-the-job apprenticeship training. Apart from this, they will also be attending their regular classroom lectures. Okay, so they'll also be attending their regular classroom lectures and learning from that as well. So what they learn from classroom lectures, they are trying to understand how it is actually working on the job. And this concept of apprenticeship training may take anywhere between 2 years to 5 years as well. Now, this concept is also applicable. There are institutes in India also. It's very prevalent in foreign countries. But when I'm talking about crafts such as, let us say, electricians, mechanics, plumbing. So when I'm talking to you about these kind of vocations as well, in India also there are provisions for this kind of vocational training which is given to people who aspire to follow this vocation. Carpenters, that is also a kind of a craft. So you will have to be very precise when it comes to choosing the kind of wood, cutting that wood, making it in proper shape, designing it. All these things they will have to learn under a senior carpenter. And apart from that, for those who are interested, formal education is also provided for all these types of profession or vocations. And yes, it's very much prevalent in foreign universities also. And take one more example of apprenticeship training when you take the case of nurses. So there also you will notice that demarcation of a senior nurse and junior nurses. So senior nurses are the ones who will be actually doing the little more complicated portion of the work, like administering injections, then connecting a patient to that glucose liquid by way of IV. So this is all a little complicated task. Whereas slightly easier tasks such as checking BP, checking the temperature, checking the using the oximeter and checking the other parameters, all these kind of work will normally be given to the trainees, that is the apprentices. So here again, they're assisting in doing the small work, but they're also observing how the slightly more important work are also carried out. So next, have a look at the next type of training technique here. You have something known as job instruction training. So what can we understand by the term job instruction training here? For some of the tasks which may be complicated, or when you're encountering with employees who are slow learners, they may end up causing accidents, or they may end up resulting in machine breakdowns or repairs. All these things are a loss for the company in some way. So thereby, to avoid all these problems for a little complicated tasks and for handling employees who are not very capable of the job right now, where a lot of additional training is required, such people normally require job instruction training. So what is the process in which job instruction training is carried out? So what we understand by job instruction training is, it is a step-by-step procedure in which instructions are given. So the entire job is broken down into small tasks. I told you about this concept in the last video itself. A big job is broken down into small tasks. Each of those tasks are demonstrated by the supervisor, and the employee is made extremely familiar with each of these tasks. See, I'll give you one small hypothetical example. Now, let us say there is one employee by name Jacob. Now, this person, he has not operated the machinery properly, because of which he has faced an accident. He has ended up cutting his hand, and at the same time, he has done some kind of damage to the machinery also. So in such case, but he's an enthusiastic person, he's willing to learn. So in such a case, what kind of a training technique has to be adopted for this person? So there are the instructor, that is the supervisor who is training him, should keep many things in mind. First of all, as I had already told you, one big task. Now, he's a person who is operating in the assembly line. And let us say the role what the person is supposed to do is, he is supposed to assemble joints, okay, for this kind of pipe-like thing. So he's supposed to join that smaller part of the pipe and the bigger part of the pipe together and attach it to this screw, and thereby make a joint out of it. So this is just one of the tasks. There are many other tasks that he has to do. So in the process of making, let us say, okay, let's say it is, let us say what kind of a joint it is. It could be that usual, that kitchen handle, right? what we use to take lift vessels which are very hot from the gas stove. That kind of kitchen handle probably they are manufacturing, or they may, which requires a joint to be fit. Or it could even be a kind of a cutting player, which also requires some kind of a joint to be fit. So there are many products which comes with the technology of joints being fit. So now, so let us take an example where he is into the process of manufacturing a cutting player, where this joint development is just one of the tasks which is there in that job. So the supervisor has to understand the job and has to break down the job into different tasks. Each task he needs to give detailed training for Jacob. Not only that, he needs to decide, the supervisor has to decide for each task, how much time am I going to allocate? What are the safety procedures that I have to teach him? And what are the ways in which I can avoid such accidents in the future? So all these things, this person is supposed to give detailed instructions on. So the first step, so there are basically 4 steps involved in job instruction training. So the first step here is preparation. So when preparation is being done, the supervisor has to again follow some guidelines here. So first of all, what the supervisor needs to do, the supervisor has to first put Jacob at ease, make him comfortable, be a little friendly with him initially. Initially itself, if he's going to scream at Jacob, Jacob is going to get irritated. He may not even be willing to learn the training process, and ultimately it's not going to benefit anyone. So first put him into a comfortable environment. So this is what preparation. So we are talking about the first stage here, which is preparation. So put Jacob in a comfortable environment. Putting him in a comfortable environment can involve indulging in some kind of small talk, general discussion about family, or it could even be, or about anything for that matter. It could be a small discussion relating to politics outside, about the weather conditions, about each other's interests. So this way, engage him in conversation and make him comfortable. Now, the second step in preparation is guarantee the employee that the supervisor or the instructor is a very capable person. So vouch for his skills. The supervisor has to vouch for his own skills and say that yes, he is a capable enough person, and Jacob is in a comfortable environment over here. And finally, he should stress that how well he has managed to train others, and how that training has benefited many other employees before. So how experienced as a trainer is he? Then the third step, the third aspect relating to preparation here is try to inform Jacob about what personal advantages Jacob can get if he takes the training program seriously. So what advantages can Jacob get? He can tell Jacob that if you contribute to complete pieces, proper manufacturing, then proper production you are doing of these joints, then you will get higher wages. So it might be a piece rate system. What is a piece rate system? Where the factory workers are paid wages based on the number of pieces that they are producing. A person who produces 2 pieces will be paid lesser wage. A person who produces 6 pieces will be be given more wages. So that one motivational factor you can use for Jacob and get him to understand that the training is going to benefit him ultimately. Then move on to the second point here, instruction. So as I already told you, the big task when it comes to manufacturing job is manufacturing a cutting player. Divide that into several tasks. One of the tasks is making the joints. Another task is assembling these joints. The third task will be painting the portion of the top portion of the cutting player. So there can be several tasks which can be there. So each of these tasks, this supervisor has to instruct in detail. For those tasks which are going to be complicated, or which the trainee, Jacob has not understood properly, repeat those tasks and explain things in detail. Encourage Jacob to ask more and more questions and doubts so that everything gets cleared over here. third point over here is we are speaking about performance. So in this situation, in this stage, we are trying to make Jacob do small activities here and there. Bigger activities, it is still the supervisor who is doing, but the small activities, we are trying to get Jacob to do those small activities. And as Jacob is doing those small activities, the simpler ones, the instructor, the supervisor should encourage Jacob. He should not, please note, he should not keep helping him out in every aspect. He should not keep giving him instructions. Instead, he should try to give him hints. For example, try fixing that wire in, the wire will come in either of these two sockets. Try to figure out which socket it will come. If it is not going to come in this socket, which else socket can you fit the wire in? These kind of hints and instructions he has to give. Don't directly say that put this wire in socket C. Try to make the employee think as to how things can be done. See, to be very frank, more than somebody teaching you, the more you think and the more you research on some aspects, the more you will learn. So for example, I am teaching you human resources management here, managing human resources. This will not be sufficient for you. If you yourself dwell into this further by consulting some textbooks or by possibly reading up about it more from the internet, there are many of ebooks which are available, or from the Google books. If you can just go through, you can always learn in a better way. So it should be a mixture of both. So what happens is, when I was speaking about performance, encourage him to do small activities. Make sure you're always supervising Jacob over here in the process of performance, and ask Jacob to explain the steps in which he's doing those small activities so that he gets confidence in what he is doing. Finally, you have follow-up. So as you feel that Jacob is getting more and more better in doing the different tasks of that job, you can slowly taper off your supervision which you give him. You cannot afford to keep supervising one employee all the while, because other new recruits would have come into the company. You should also try to focus on supervising the other new recruits as well. So try to taper it off little by little as and when you feel confident that Jacob can do his work. But however, you also have to give your assurance to Jacob that whenever required, you will be there for giving him additional instructions. So this is the way, in this way, there is every chance that this employee who was not performing that well previously, definitely because of this additional training that you have given, their performance is definitely bound to improve in the future. So this is the way in which job instruction training is done. Step by step training instruction is done. So if I just have to give you a small conclusion relating to on-the-job training, what are the advantages from what I have explained to you all this while? I'm sure you yourself would have understood some advantages of on-the-job training technique. So one of the advantages is it's inexpensive. So on the job is something where the employee is learning while performing. So you do not have to invest in any outdoor facilities or out of the office facilities, like engaging a seminar hall for lecturing someone, which is quite expensive, engaging a classroom, which also may be time consuming, or you're engaging in some kind of simulation environment, which I will tell you about later, replicating the environment of your office in another off-site facility, replicating the environment of the production department in another facility away from the office. So all these things are also techniques which are done. But all these are also expensive techniques and time consuming techniques. Whereas for simple things which do not involve much risk, if you can just do it on the job itself, production is also happening here and there, and training is also taking place here and there. And it's also a very effective technique because the employee is learning while performing. And as they are performing, they get immediate feedback from the supervisor, as what I told you in the case of Jacob in the previous example. So because of getting that immediate feedback relating to their performance, a small kind of a motivation tends to be there. So because of all these reasons, it's good. But however, one note of caution, what that is the trainers themselves need to be trained. Now, why the trainers themselves need to be trained? See, there's one interesting term known as Golem effect. So what is Golem effect here is the trainers, as they are training their candidates, as they are training their employees, should set high standards. If they themselves are not able to, see, some of them may be training just because their boss asked them to train. Just because of the sake of training, some of them will be training, and just to show that, yes, we have done the training. This is what should be avoided. So when you're training, you first need to appreciate the importance of that training program. You need to understand that because of training, another employee is going to get benefited, which is going to benefit the company altogether. So this is what we need to keep in mind. And the trainer should also set high standards for the employee. I'll tell you one small short story relating to Golem effect. See, during one training program, what happened is a particular company, a particular organization wanted to test the effect of Golem effect. So what it did was it caught hold of a group of employees. All the employees in that group were equally capable, had equal IQ, intelligence levels, skills, capabilities, everything was equally good among all those employees. Now, these employees were put into two groups. Group A consisting of some employees, Group B consisting of some other employees. So this office, the company, the organization told these two groups that you are in Group A because you were not that capable enough. Whereas it told the Group B members that you are in Group B because you people are much skilled. That is the reason we have put you in Group B. See, in reality, all the employees, whether it is Group A or Group B, have equal skills. But the message which was communicated to the Group A was they are of average skills, because of which they are put in Group A. The message communicated to Group B was they are extremely good, because of which they are in Group B. And the effect of performance of both these groups were observed. After observation, for some weeks, it was revealed that Group B's performance was much better than Group A's performance. The reason is the standards that were set for them. If a high standard is set for you, although you may not be up to that mark, because of the expectation from your superior, you will do something and escalate yourself to the position of what the superior expects. Whereas when the standard expected of you is less, your performance will also be less only. So this is exactly what is communicated to the trainers also. When you're training your candidates, set your performance standards high, so that these candidates, in order to reach that performance goal, they will work towards it and ultimately reach high levels of performance. So with this note, I'll just be concluding this video. I will see you people in the next video. Thank you.